Welcome back, guys. Back for another episode. Today we're going to be going over training age. Now, people will be thinking, what are you talking about? How old do you train? How old is... But
how old are you?
Yeah, but training age is, you know, the difference between someone walking in the gym with no experience of fitness and then someone walking into the gym with a decade of fitness. There's quite a bit of difference, how different responses you can get from the human being with that, more how versatile they are and how rounded they are with fitness compared to someone who generally walks in off their couch, shall we say, and going, right, I want to do CrossFit. So we're going to explain how important training age can be, especially with the sport of CrossFit or any sport really, and how you build up everything.
Yeah, everything. Understanding where you sit on like a training age progression and line, you'll start to understand like how you can approach training differently, what adaptation or what improvement you're going to get over that period of time, and then ultimately you can align it more with where you sit with everything else to create the most successful training plan for you, basically. Because if you come in and, as you said, you approach training the exact same way as you did when you just first got off your couch and stepped in the door, you're not going to get the same success, and you're potentially going to stagnate in terms of progression. Plus that mindset that you come in as a beginner compared to as you come in advanced is worlds apart, completely different. I think, like, to really put this into a nice numerical way of looking at it, if you look at Olympic lifting, if everyone who's been in the CrossFit gym probably has had a bit of experience with Olympic lifting. I know when I started and you started, like, even though we had a bit of a strength background, you see it day 1 to day 30, 1 month, your Olympic lifting goes through the roof. Like, you start at maybe 20 kilo bar, and by like 30 days you're lifting 60 kilos, 80 kilos. That's a ridiculous increase in. You can work out the percentage. And that's
the same case with most. You can even relate that to bodybuilding and bench press.
Exactly.
You know, once you start, you know, remember, when you see someone first walk into the gym and do bench press, you just give them the 20 kilo bar and they're shaking like a leaf. And then, which literally a few months down the line, they're probably benching near enough half or up towards their body weight. Like the adaptation grows pretty quickly when you get that new stimulus.
Massively. And then the further you move down and you go to advanced, the slower your progression is. You look so I love Olympic lifting, because you look at the Olympic lifters who are part of the Olympics now. Okay, so the Olympics is coming up soon. They've been doing their trials. You've got some of the strongest people in history in Olympic lifting currently, but they're only increasing by maybe 2 kilos every year, every 2 years. So the adaptation curve of an advanced individual has slowed massively. Yeah. So the world record in the snatch was back in 2017. I think it was 2017. It snatched 220. Lasher snatched 220s. We spoke about him in our Olympic lifting podcast. If you want to see some phenomenal feats of strength, check him out. But basically, 4 years ago, he snatched 220 kilos. First time in history. I think that's 4 or 5 red plates.
I think, is it 3 reds and then
a blue,
a yellow or blue, something like that.
Anyway, it's astronomical. It's never been snatched before. We are 4 years down the line, and in his training hall and in the Olympic trials for Georgia, he snatched 223, I believe, or he snatched that in training.
Yeah, so I think if you'd watched a previous Olympic lifting podcast at the beginning, I've got him on there.
Yeah.
I think on that video you see him doing 222.
222. Yeah. So in a span of 4 years, and don't forget, this guy's training 6 days a week probably in Olympic lifting, like solely. He's doing 2 lifts. That's it. Snatch, the clean jerk. In 4 years, he's increased his snatch potential by 3 kilos. Like, just kind of let that sit in, and that's where you'll sit on advanced. And the amount of work that's gone into that is exponential. Yeah. It's not just like, oh, he snatches once a week and he's slowly increased. No, he snatches 6 times a week, probably. I don't know. But he trains a hell of a lot. and he's only had an increase of 4 kilos. So when people get closer to that intermediate and advanced stage of fitness,
that's when the real work begins.
Yeah, because people are like, oh, it used to be so easy, and then you get demotivation. You get people, I'm not seeing the improvement that I used to do. And this is where understanding what the training should look like is key, but understanding the mentality that comes with it is even more important.
Oh, without a doubt. And then, like I say, like you can walk into a gym with a rough lifestyle. So you could have, poor sleep. You could not be on a good diet. That stimulus of training and getting off going, you're gonna get rewards, no doubt. But then it will get to a point where you will plateau. And the biggest thing, I've seen being in a coach in a CrossFit gym for quite some years now, is that you see people do that after the 2 years, you see them plateauing, and then they put their hands up, go, I don't know what's going on, and then that's when they venture out for a bigger program, more volume, make it harder, and they feel like I've got to do more, and then you start to see people just staying on a level of like, all you really see them do is just fucking loads of hard work and not really going anywhere forward with it.
Yeah, I think another big thing to do with that as well is kind of you could have come into the gym for 2, 3, however many years, but if you haven't given it like focused practice, if you're not in the gym kind of mindful of what you're doing, how you think, like probably goes tenfold for bodybuilding because it's all about isolation, contracting the muscles. If you've not, Arnie speaks of it massively. He talks about feeling the muscle, and
the mind-muscle connection is more important than actually training.
Than the actual
if you can't
exercise
feel the
you're
muscle
doing.
Working, it's probably not working.
And that's where, if you come in for 2 years and just kind of like switch off and just go through the motions.
Just go through the motions, just read the board and do what it's doing. Yeah, you will get, like you said, you get somewhere, but then you'll start to probably miss out a lot.
I like to, like the training is, in my eyes, training is structured, mindful practice of whatever the domain is. Okay, it could be sports, it could be weights, it could be anything. Exercise, just doing just kind of movement, but you're not thinking about it.
Yeah.
So training's like, when you say training, you think of a more serious, structured routine. You think of collegiate football teams, you think of CrossFit Games athletes, you think of Olympic lifters, like with that mindset. And then you say exercise and you think of people just running up and down in the park doing boot camps. It's like, there's nothing wrong with boot camps, but at the same time, it's like, how focused is that practice?
Yeah, how far are you going to go with your fitness? Like with most fitnesses, that you can get to one level and it will stay there. If you don't, another reason, if you look at, I love going back to more of my background with fighting. I always bring it up. But if you look at boxers, why do they change training camps? Because it can come to a point where they become very stagnant with their surroundings and where they are. And now they need...
They're not looking outside.
Now they need more. So even though they're doing the same routines and boxing, now they need a different way of training to take them to the next level, and that happens a lot. Some fighters maybe not. They can go through and still stay with the same camp. But we see a lot of the time, a lot of top pedigree fighters that get to the top of the game and then they change camp again.
They need different
to try and
approaches.
keep reaching the next levels, because if you want to be the best, you've got to do that. You've got to keep changing things around, but getting things to work for you. So, every sport can be the same.
Yeah, and that's where you kind of you go through a stage of fitness for long enough, and you spend enough time doing a program where you spend enough time working with a coach, and there is natural progression. It's okay, you might have worked with a coach for so long and you've got everything you could out of it, and your kind of, not your values and your morals have changed, but your way you want to go, your next growth section changes. So you can reach out and move different coaches. However, I think the change of people just because they're not seeing improvement for a short amount of time, that's where you start to get detrimental effect, and you're basically just in more of a seesaw effect of fitness. And that's where, unfortunately, we see quite a lot, because in CrossFit there's an abundance of training programs out there. Every half games athlete or every just person that's opened a gym has put out a program. Everyone's an expert now because it's easy. Right, so that's why I'll try that for a bit.
It's easy just to throw a load of volume and weight on a page and go, here you go, guys, do this.
Yeah, and like we're probably going a bit off the point, but the glistening lights of all these other programs are always out there. So you're always going to have them in your mind. Like, actually, I'll try that. I haven't seen much improvement with this. I'll try it. It's marketing. It's the joy of marketing. However, understanding where you are on this curve can almost curb that appetite for wanting to just like hot program, because you start to understand where you sit and, okay, actually, with the mindset, if I stick to this, yeah, my progression has slowed down, but that's the natural adaptation curve of anything in life. You think of, yeah, when you went to school, like there's stuff you pick up straight away, but then throughout school, you get to the last years and you're probably like, yeah, maths is a bit like, okay, this is newish stuff, but I'm not learning at the pace I used to. So to give you like a more contextual numbers, we see the beginner as like your kind of 1 to 2 years of training. And as go back to this, like this is your focus practice. This is actually coming in thinking about what you're doing, not just like dawdling in, head down, switching off and just going through the motions. It's like focus practice. So in this stage, training's going to look pretty like you could do pretty much everything and anything to an extent, not like jumping straight into muscle ups. No,
you're going to be, again, what we'll see as well is strength.
Yeah.
And go back to strength.
You'll build strength quickly, and also the body can take a lot of movement because you're not going to be able to kind of express strength to the maximal. You give someone that's been training 20 years a 1 rep max back squat compared to someone who's been training 2 weeks. I wouldn't recommend it, but you're going to see the person. So I'll take you for example. You do a 1 rep max back squat, you'll probably be pretty trash the next day or for a week. You'll be like, shit, yeah. If I hit that right, like it messed me up. The person who's just walked in the door in that beginner phase will probably do a 1 rep max back squat and finish and be like, okay, that took 10 minutes. Like, what's next?
Because they haven't really hit.
And exactly. You haven't hit that because it goes back to the mind-muscle connection and the understanding of the body and understanding of expression of strength. So that's why you can throw a little bit more at a beginner and just kind of see how they adapt to an extent. But understand the adaptation is going to be super quick. It's going to be like, yeah, as you said, bench press, 20 kilos, you're shaking
the bar one
You
week.
Probably see it. You worked in the gym for long enough.
When I worked in a bodybuilding gym, see it all the time. And I was, even when I remember when I first got the bench press, it's like you grab the bar and it's like you've never done a bench press before. So it's like the body doesn't know what to do. So it's like, it's like like a baby calf being born. They get out and they're all wonky and fall over. It's like that. It's like shaky, and then within 2-3 weeks, you've got 40 kilos on that bar, and it's just nice, and then you think, wow, this is great. Look, I'm putting on nearly 5 kilos each week, and it goes up and up and up, and then you start to get to that point where it starts to slow down, and that's where the real work starts to begin.
Yeah, I think like the dangerous thing about the beginner phase is the disconnecting your ego from your training, because as you said, like you could easily in that stage go from lifting a barbell 1 week on a bench press, going to 40 kilos, going to 60, going to 80.
And you think it's just going to keep going like that?
Yeah, so every week you're constantly trying to push on more, but you're not actually, you lose a little bit of the learning element of actually the movement.
Yeah.
So that's where, and it's easy, like we've both done it for sure. Like you do a new movement, you're like, actually, I'm pretty good at this. I got some prerequisite strength, and you start pushing yourself too much, and it starts to fall down and break down. And
when I started CrossFit, I've done the same thing with snatch. So I've come in, obviously, fucking a broomstick was hard to do overhead. Then I started to open up a little bit of range, but then I started to get on. I just wanted to get on that bar and get that 60 kg straight away. So I just, for every week, was like a little bit more, got to 60, kept doing it, going up more, to the point where it came, I wasn't focusing on technique enough, wasn't drilling technique enough, had the muscle to ego lift it, and then over time, what did I do? I just really hurt the body in the long run, and had to take steps back.
Yeah, and
go through the process again.
Yeah, and you create kind of movement mechanics that aren't optimal, and they limit your ceiling to an extent.
Yeah.
You probably got to X amount on your snatch and was like, actually, it just wasn't changing. So you had to come back down to almost zero again, learn the pattern again, focus on the position. And now the ceiling just gets higher and higher and higher. So that's kind of the implication of the beginner phase, is the ego can take over and you can be like, yeah, I'm just going to keep loading.
Yeah.
But you're skipping a huge portion of the foundation, right? So in terms of like what training would look like for this, as we said, because the body won't be able to go to maximal intensity or expression, you can do like full body training. Do full body every day just to learn about the body. Learn every single muscle, how it feels to contract a muscle and move through that. And then, from there, that will also help to build confidence. And then you can you're building your base. Like any house starts with a base.
Always.
The taller the building, the bigger the base.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately what the beginner phase is. And as I said, it's 1 to 2 years. And like, it's not a short time. It's quite a long time of consistency and mindful practice and coming in day after day with that focus.
It's like, I'll never forget, like, obviously when I first got into bodybuilding, I was so eager to get strong on the bench. I was so eager to get big arms, and it was like the training partner I had back then, I was literally doing his head in every week. I was going, when's my chest going to get big? When's my chest going to get big? Like, I was expecting it in 6 weeks. I was expecting it in 2 months. And he just kept going, it's going to take years. It's going to take years. I was like, no, I want it now. But then within 3 years of that training, so when did I start training? I started training weights probably about, say, coming on to 18. By the time I was 20, I had a solid foundational good physique, very symmetrical, very good. And, I would put a video up to show people, but it's a very young Tristan.
Do it.
But I put in some good from where I came from as an under. What would you say? Not an underachieved, but an undertrained. I wasn't into sports as a kid until I got into boxing and built fitness there, but I still didn't have no sort of like genetic muscle mass. Like I had to really put the work in to do that. And by 21 years old, I had a great physique. That's 3 years of solid base training.
And I guess when you stopped focusing so much on when am I going to get bigger? When am I going to get bigger? It's like as soon as you stop focusing on it, it starts to happen. You start to realize it.
But I got brought to attention when I started training with a professional bodybuilder. I was like, how do you get bigger? You eat.
You eat, and you just let train hard and let time take its course.
You can put in all the hours, you can put in as much energy into your training session as you want, but this will refer back to as well. If you're not eating along the way, you're not going to grow, man. So it's as simple as that. But staying back on the subject of training age, training age now is 20 years to, going into my 3rd decade now. Yeah. It's a long time, and I've done many different disciplines of training. I've done the brutal MMA training of circuits and sparring and fighting, the boxing training, the bodybuilding training, the hard leg sessions, CrossFit training. It's a lot over the body. It's a lot over the body. So I can pretty much jump into anything anywhere now and be versatile to do it.
Yeah, and that comes definitely with the experience, understanding your body, understanding where you sit in certain things, but then also, we'll go into the advanced where you are clearly now in terms of how long you've been training for and what implications you have to take into account when you go into a new program potentially, or you approach a certain day. But in between there, you've got like your intermediate. So this is like your middle ground. Right. This is you're looking like two. These are just parameters. Obviously, you can fall out outside of this. Some people might be a beginner for a hell of a lot longer. There's nothing wrong with that. Some people might go fast track the beginner and intermediate and kind of get to a level where they're pretty advanced already because they've got an awareness of their body. It's really good. They can build strength very well. Like there's lots of things that come into play. This is not like be all end all. As soon as you slip, it's like when you wake up on your birthday or wake up the day after your birthday. It's just another day. It's not like you're, now I'm an advanced trainer. It's like, it doesn't work like that.
No, it doesn't.
So, in between you've got your intermediate. It's like roughly like 2 to 6 years, 2 to 5, 2 to 6 years. And this is where you can definitely start to break up days of training. Instead of going for like full body, you can definitely break them up into certain movement combinations, because ultimately what you're going to be doing is you're going to be able to express like strength, speed. You're basically going to have more of an understanding of your body. You're going to have a better strength base, and now you can start doing the things like harder and faster and more complex.
Yeah.
Think about if you go back to the back squat, or like assault bike's a great thing. Like
Great thing.
A 10-second max sprint on an assault bike, give it to a beginner and they'll do 10 seconds.
And they'll be on the floor.
They'll be like, yeah, like, but sometimes you'll find they'll be perfectly fine.
Because they haven't really hit the full
stimulus of it. You give an intermediate.
They've never known. Where if you put someone like us on it, that 10 seconds, you're gonna see it on the clock.
Yeah. And that's where you get to a point where your strength base is increased, your capacity is increased, and now you can like really like use your strength, your capacity to express power, to express like pure speed. Like, yeah, you look at these runners and they're like some of the like strongest people around, and they don't get there through not training.
So I remember another great way of explaining this was when I'd done the OPEX athlete weekend, and on the last day we had to do the workout, which was called the shish, which is an OPEX based lactate, which what was it? It's 250 meter row.
250 rows.
All out though.
Like max.
All
effort.
out. Like
It's
not like I'm starting the workout and I'm pacing. It's like 250 meters for time, pretty much. And then you get off, and then I think it's
kettlebell
swings.
swings.
10 kettlebell swings. I think it's 32, then 10 burpees, 10 kettlebell swings, 10 burpees, 10 kettlebell swings, 10 burpees.
Just 3 rounds.
And then I think maybe another set of kettlebell swings. Then
a row.
Then another max row at the end. Then you rest, 6 minutes?
12
minutes.
You rest 12 minutes.
3 rounds. And that you think, 12-minute rest? What? But you could, at the end of that, one of the coaches who'd done that, Matt McConnelly, was there. He actually come up to me and he could see just from that workout my training age.
Yeah.
Because how some other people were like dying, and just like you could see they were doing the workout, but they weren't trying to push through the workout. Where obviously when I came off that row, I was already in a fucking bad state anyway, but I could push because of my training age, and that's when he identified straight away my MMA background. Because so many sessions I'd done like that, and it is a case of that especially when you're sparring. We used to do brutal sparring sessions like last man standing. So you'd be literally, when you was getting ready for a fight, you'd be in whatever the cage or the ring or whatever, and you'd be fighting you'd do like maybe 5, maybe 8, maybe even up to 10-minute round, but every minute you'd have a fresh opponent. And they were just like brutal. It's just like you were just getting, the next opponent was just coming in, slamming you on the floor, and then you would just have to survive. But it was a way of teaching you how to survive in a fight. But I was doing that over time. You could see the training age with a workout like that, and that's another one that you could see. If we pulled someone onto the street and put them into that workout,
they'd probably finish.
They'll probably finish it, but
they'll be like,
it's going to look so different to someone with a training age of like say 5 years of doing that. You're going to see a complete different outcome.
Yeah, and we see this in classes all the time, and the great scope of classes is you get a wide variety of individuals at all different levels. So you can look around the class and kind of, even if you didn't talk to the people, you'd understand where they roughly sit in terms of training age, and how they'd approach by as you said, how they approach workouts, how they recover from workouts, how much effort or how much stimulus they can get from a workout.
Yeah.
So yeah, like you're probably after that first round on the floor dying, you're recovering by the 12 minutes, whereas a beginner would probably finish that first round and be like, oh, that wasn't too bad. Yeah. 12 minutes, like what? I'll put kettle on, I'll get a cup of tea and fuck about. So, and that's where you start to.
You do that 3 times.
Oh,
I think once I'd done the second round, that's when I was physically feeling really sick, and I was in that 12 minutes of the second rest thinking, oh my God, there's a third, and I was absolutely dreading it. But then I was able to do the same performance. Same performance.
Fuck that. If you want to do it. If you don't.
I'll put the workout up so you can see it, or we'll list it. If you want, it's a great test to really test how deep you can go into that
grit and determination. That comes with training age as well.
Training age, of course does. Yeah.
But yeah, like, so when you go into the intermediate, you'll see, as we said, like, you'll start to see the progression of strength slow down. And that's like, it's a natural occurrence. You're not going to always be gaining strength. The strength isn't linear. Anything in life isn't like a nice linear line upwards. You're going to have like, it's going to slow down with everything, as I said.
And that's where consistency and, as they say, some people say hard work really kicks in. And I think, I like to call it more consistent. Consistent work pays off.
Yeah.
Hard work can be. Hard work pays off is a slogan that's used, but that could be. It could be too much hard work where it won't pay off. I think if you use a consistency in what you do and you keep it consistent and you always, then I think you're definitely going to.
You can work hard for a week, but then what's that? If you stop working after a week, what's that going to do?
Exactly. But if you stay consistent with what you do, and then you're going to see the rewards come back off that.
Yeah, and the most time we see people changing programs or moving coaches is ultimately in that switch between beginner and intermediate, or just after they've entered intermediate and the strength progressions and the gains have slowed down. They're like, well, clearly this isn't right for me. I'm not improving the way I used to be. I'm going to look for something else. And that's perfectly fine if you feel like the approach isn't suited for you. Like, there is a point where you can do a certain style of training that might just not stop working, but you've got so used to the same stimulus of what it's bringing, so you might need to mix it up, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just making sure you're doing it at the right time and not hastily just jumping from one thing to the next, because you're like, well, my progression slowed down.
Yeah.
Clearly this isn't the best thing for me. It's like, well, no, actually you've been training long enough and you've just changed into a slower progression, more intermediate look now, but then also it opens up, as I said, an opportunity to add more complexity. You've got a foundation of strength, you can put more power in, you can add more speed work. So there's definitely different implications to think about. But yeah, all of this does just come back to the whole, like, depends on your goals, what you want to get out of it. You could do the same training from beginner to advanced if your goals is, I just want to be healthy, I just want to be fit, and I just want to be able to move every day.
Then just enjoy your process and enjoy your training along the way, and don't stress yourself out. But we see it comes in, I suppose in a normal gym, that's what most people do. But when it comes down to a CrossFit gym, in the environment, especially when you've got people who can compete and their training's by the side of you and you're looking at them, it does build that fire inside most people, and then that's when they can sort of like fall off track and miss the basics of moving and base training, and then start to rush the process and fall out of context with what they're doing. So it is a case of look at your goal. I always say, set some goals. What do you want? Like, is it a case of, I need to be strong? Is it a case I need to move better? Is it a case of, there's so many points of training that can be. But if you try and do all of them at once, it's becomes very confusing, very hard. Yeah,
and like we can talk massively about goals, and I think people might say they don't like goals, but you kind of ultimately naturally just are setting constant goals. Day in, day out, there's constant little goals that get you through life. So setting them with fitness is very cliche, but it's so good to do. You got a measuring stick. You got somewhere that you want to go. You've got, instead of just like going around in a circle, and it goes back to the focused training. It's like, if you don't have a goal, you don't have something that's going to align you, or you haven't spoken it, but then it's not become real.
And I think for me, it was like, I used to set the same goals, but then every year I'd have the same goals. So I think if you do set the goals, at least have a understanding on how you're going to achieve those goals. So I used to set too many targets and I never achieved them, and I'd be like, why not? Because I didn't know the route to actually achieve them. So goals, like you say, they're very important, but make sure you understand how to get that goal and achieve it. Don't just write a goal down and go, I want this, but then you're going, well, it's not happened. Why not? Because you didn't go down the route of getting it.
Set a goal and work backwards from it, and using this hopefully this knowledge of where you're sitting on your line of like training age will help to align your goals more with where you sit. As we said, thinking about, I want to be here. I'm an advanced lifter though, so I'm going to do some beginner stuff. Like, it might work, but will it move it towards a goal? Maybe not. And we're not discrediting. As soon as you step out of the beginner, you go to intermediate, and then once you've gone from intermediate to advanced, and the training looks different, you never go back. You still remember the foundation, still remember the other stuff. It's just knowing that the change of progression is slowed and there's different things to take into account. So I think last one is advanced. You're the oldest one out of us. You've been lifting long enough. What things do you take into account now stepping into the gym compared to maybe like 5 years ago?
Wow, yeah. So obviously where I am with my age now, things I look differently now is like my goals have slightly changed. So if you went back to me 5 years ago, I was probably looking at, I do want to be still quite high level in the CrossFit, and my goals were probably like, I was still more training to be like an athlete, and in some way, yes, trying to compete. I've always had that in my head, but then as my training age has come now, as most people will know me, I'm more about movement quality. So obviously, over those years, I can pick up bad habits. Your body can move out of range quite easily from intensive training and putting myself in the hole too much, and not understanding recovery as well as I do now. So my how I'm changed now is that obviously I'm really big on my strength training. I want to get strong again. I've lowered the intensity because of my lifestyle, because of obviously having kids and stuff and disrupted sleep. Having too much intensity in that is not good. Obviously, I'm not going to optimize my recovery. And mainly for me, I want to be more flexible. I'm probably the most flexible I've ever been now, and I want to keep continuing that work with my flexibility. It's a new goal for me that I've started to enjoy because I understand it and I know how to do it right now, where before I didn't understand it. Everyone does the same sort of thing. You go for a passive stretch, you go from 1 to 5, fuck that, I'm out of that in 20 seconds, and you think, I've done my mobility for the day or flexibility work, and it doesn't work like that. You've got to put in just in considerate time to moving well as you're training. So that's where I am now, and I'm understanding where I am in life and understanding what I want. So
you've also, through the experiences you've had, you refined what's worked for you and what hasn't worked for you, and that is part and parcel of trying different approaches to training, but not trying to jump off that boat too early. Just learning when to.
So I'm not just trying to kill myself day in day out anymore. I'm really on top of. I like one day where I do CrossFit because I coach it. I love it. I don't train CrossFit so much every day, but I do have one day where it's based around a Metcon or a variation of that, and the rest of my time is more about building strong legs again, and working on my handstands. So I'm not making it too complicated. So I've got two simple things I really want to improve in: getting my back squat strength back up, and still improving range and building up that perfect handstand. That they're my main two goals. So I always build my program around them. Obviously, I chuck other things in there. I still do a bit of bench press. Like I say, I still do my aerobic work. Still mix it up, but it's not just all high end. Like, intensity, I've got to do a Metcon.
Also, as you get to more advanced, you can create more intensity in loads of different factors, and this will ultimately play a part in it. Like strength training, if I gave you, go back to kind of the 1 rep max, or you can use a 10 rep max. I gave you 3 sets of 10 reps, and go heavy. Gave it to a beginner, you would be completely trashed afterwards. That'd be a whole session. That could be in breaking it down to just one movement pattern. So you just work one day like a squat, because you can, and the volume will probably be quite low, but the intensity will be really high because of your strength level from all an experience and understanding your body from all the years ahead before. So. Yeah, whereas the beginning would be like 10, 3 sets of 10 is fine. That's fine. So yes, understand that just as you get more advanced, doesn't mean you need to do more.
No.
To get better.
No. So and I think it does come to a case as when you do get older, less is more, as they say. I use that all the time because I had to drill that into my head. Less is more.
You need an opportunity. You need to give your body an opportunity to recover, and if you're creating more intensity through the experience and the strength you've got before, you're going to create more fatigue. So you're going to need more ample recovery. And as you know well than us and me, and you've spoken to me about this, as you start to get older, recovery is not as good as it used to be.
Oh man, listen, I'm sure I've told this story a million times because it's so true. when I was a youngster in the gym and I used to talk to the old 30-year-olds, and then when I was up and coming and they were looking at me like, fucking hell, this kid's getting strong. They'd go, yeah, let's see if you last. Let's see if you're still here when you're 35 years old. And I'd be like, you old man. I said, I won't be like you. And in some aspects, I wasn't. Because I'm still here now doing what I'm doing. But I think when I hit 32, 33, shit changed.
Yeah.
It really did. I noticed aches and pains coming out of nowhere. My level of recovery was definitely, but then I didn't know as much as I do now. Could I've helped this along the way? Yeah, I think I could have helped this quite a lot. I could have helped this quite a lot from being more knowledgeable with what I know now. And that's it. Getting the knowledge, finding it. You know,
we're an information age, so it's
and then if you want the knowledge, if you just go through our catalogue of podcasts, you got it all. It's all there. It's all there. Some of it may look boring to you, but if you listen to it, you'll get an understanding. If you put all these principles in act, then you'll start to build better in all directions.
Yeah, and I think, like, don't rush.
Don't rush. Take your
shit.
time. If you've got a coach or a PT, use them. Make sure they're knowledgeable. Make sure it's just not a book cover. So if you see that PT who's got ripped abs and then all they're trying to promote to you is, oh yeah, we've got to do this to get, that's bullshit. You want more of a coach or a PT that is a life coach as well. They can direct you in all areas, not just, oh yeah, let's get fucking washboard abs and look amazing and I'm killing myself to stay this lean just to promote to people. That's not a great trainer.
No.
You want someone who can direct you in everything and put you on the point of building your lifestyle around your training and training around your lifestyle. I think that's very important.
Yeah.
And then just build it up. Don't rush. Build that training age over time.
You've got to let it align. Like, you've got to align it with yourself and find something that you enjoy, but that works. If you're constantly chopping and changing programs and moaning that, or coaches and saying this one didn't work for me, this one didn't work for me, this one, like, there's unfortunately there's a common denominator there. Look at yourself. What are you not? Don't have the understanding of where you want to go in terms of goals. You don't have the focus inside the gym to make those hard changes, or don't have the focus outside to make the habitual changes that all have improvements. So yeah, it's more than just, the scope goes wider than just like a program. There's so much more that goes into it.
Oh, so much more.
So yeah, just I think look at yourself before pointing at everyone else.
Yeah. And going, oh, this isn't working, when you don't even understand what you've been doing anyway.
Yeah, knowledge and information's out there. It is out there, and that's the joy of the internet. Some information you probably don't want to see, but and getting it from good sources. Or just reach out. Happy to answer any questions.
Yeah,
but yeah, just beginner, intermediate, advanced training.
Understand that.
Hope you can actually like pinpoint roughly where you sit now. And as I said, like, it's not just in gym training. Take into account the stuff you did as a kid playing sports, or just being recreational. More than anything, they do play a part, but then there's ultimately going to be a different progression for out and out strength training compared to a different progression for cardiovascular training or endurance or speed or power. So yeah, be able to, I hope you can kind of plot where you sit and where you're training, and just to refine and align yourself with your training and your goals a bit better from this.
That's it. All done. Well, for our listeners who have been loyal and listening to these every week, thank you very much.
I'm giving away free hugs.
For you people who've probably just jumped on board, don't forget, push subscribe so you don't miss out. We do try and release a podcast every week. So
Weekly.
There's always going to be something. You might look at it and go, yeah, I know that. That's fine. Skip that one. But there's always might be another one that will go, okay, this is some knowledge that I need. So push a like if you like it. Again, reach out to us with any questions further on all the platforms. So on Spotify, iTunes, and obviously YouTube, where you can actually see us talking and see who's got new hairdo.
Phil Foden, it's the trend. It's the new trend. It's come back.
Right.
I'm ahead of the curve. Thank you very much.
Catch you on the next one. Thank you very much.